The American university is in the grips of a mass hysteria. Students actually believe that they are victims of oppression, at risk of their lives from circumambient racism and sexism. The degree of maudlin caterwauling is impossible to overstate. At Brown, students of color occupied the president's office and complained about having to meet such academic expectations as attending class when they were so focused on, quote, staying alive at Brown. At Yale, a mob of minority students surrounded a highly respected sociologist and cursed and screamed at him for 3 hours because his wife had sent an email suggesting that students could choose their own Halloween costumes free from the ministrations of Yale's diversity bureaucracy. Among the shouts of, "Shut the F up," and I'm censoring that, and "You are disgusting," that were directed at this mild-mannered left-wing professor was a cry of, "We're dying," from one of the ranters, referring to the allegedly endangered status of Yale's minority students. But my favorite moment in this parade of narcissism came from Princeton. In 2015, Princeton's black students chanted, "We're sick and tired of being sick and tired." Now, this phrase was first used by Fannie Lou Hamer, a civil rights activist who was beaten in the 1950s for trying to vote. Fannie Lou Hamer had grounds aplenty for being sick and tired of being sick and tired. But any Princeton student, I don't care if he's green, purple, or orange, who thinks of himself as oppressed is in the grip of a terrible delusion that will encumber him for the rest of his life. Well, perhaps you're thinking, at least the adults on campus are trying to give students a firmer grip on reality. To the contrary, the adults actively encourage the hysteria. A massive diversity bureaucracy is devoted to cultivating in students ever more arcane species of self-involvement and ever more preposterous forms of self-pity. Do you want to know the reason for astronomical tuition? Look no further than this bureaucratic bloat. Students regularly act out little psychodramas of oppression before an appreciative audience of diversity deanlets, vice provosts of equity, diversity, and inclusion, who use the occasion to expand their dominion. Many campuses have created bias response teams, modeled presumably on active shooter response teams on the assumption that discrimination is so rampant and lethal that a rapid defense force is needed. Freshman orientations and dorm sessions invariably feature seminars in toxic masculinity and white privilege. Students are taught that they are either the oppressed or the oppressors. If you are not female, black, Hispanic, gay, or any of the 116 and still metastasizing categories of gender, the only way that you can escape being an oppressor is by becoming a, quote, ally. Allies are something usually associated with war. And indeed, the reigning thinking is that female students and students of color are literally in a war zone on college campuses and need allies from the opposing side to survive. Am I exaggerating? I am not.